How did you first react to the crisis?
I think for us as South African tourism, when the pandemic happened, which was early in March, mid-March, it came really as quite a shock, firstly, and specifically for West Africa office, we were in the midst of a lot of our marketing activities to engage with the various sectors and encourage people to visit South Africa. Matter of fact, when it actually happened, we had just returned from doing what we call a familiarization trip with the polo community in South Africa, because South Africa has a huge polo community. And we have a big polo event that happens every year on the 1st of March in Cape Town, a very favorite city for Nigerians, part of South Africa. We had just returned from that, and obviously then the pandemic happened, and everything came to a halt. So we had to stop with all our activities. It did have an impact on us, so including our travel partners, as you can imagine. People who were scheduled to take their Easter holidays to South Africa, obviously they could no longer take those trips because then the airlines closed, and we know exactly what happened once all the directives went out globally in all the countries.
So I read a report online that says that 40% of international travelers fly even after the lockdown is lifted. 33% said they won't stay in a hotel. What does that mean for ASA tourism if the lockdown is eventually lifted? What does that mean for a business like yours?
Specifically talking to Nigeria. So perhaps yes, globally in terms of other markets, because of varying factors, there is a higher percentage of people that will not travel. However, from a South African tourism perspective, we are confident that the areas that we are looking at, specifically Nigeria and Ghana, there is definitely a view that post-COVID-19 people will resume to travel, because travel is part of their way of life. Yes, possibly the percentage of people that travel might not be similar to what we saw in the previous years, but certainly a considerable number of those will travel.
How about in South Africa? Do you have any inkling as to when things will begin to pick up in South Africa? Are you getting any feelers?
Since the lockdown happened, at a national level, South Africa is following what we call a risk-adjusted strategy, which is based on levels of lockdown and not specific dates. So these levels are defined according to the relevant what they call epidemiologic facts and announced by the president, which is why each time we move from one level to the other, that announcement is made by the president. And the priority and objective remains to resume the operations as early as possible. That is from a tourism perspective. However, all this is governed by our risk adjustment strategy. I say this within the context that we are following a 5-level strategy. And as at now, as I talk to you, South Africa is sitting on level 3. However, we are gearing for the reopening of the tourism, the domestic tourism, in line with the risk-adjusted strategy. We just do not know exactly when. And if you look at the social media activity and engagement around South Africans, people are eager to go out. Just to share with you one of the insights we've picked up in the last few weeks, there's been a huge spike in hiking. So that in itself is quite encouraging, particularly when we are seeing it from the consumer perspective. And obviously, once the international borders are open and the flights can come in and fly out, naturally, one would then expect that there would be that organic movement of inward and outward of people.
What advantages have you identified as an SA tourism in all of this that's happening?
So for us in the West Africa region, what the COVID-19 pandemic has presented to us is an opportunity to reflect and look at those areas within our business that needs closer attention. And certainly that's what we are doing. So we're engaging a lot with our travel trade partners. So, the likes of Yonanta, the travel agency in Nigeria, just to engage with them as our partners to redefine our operations, look at enhancing how we collaborate to make sure that it's easier and much more efficient for them to promote us as a leisure and business destination. So those are the things that we now have an opportunity to do during this lockdown phase. Us do as Team South Africa, which is now a combination of the entities that have tourism as a mandate within Nigeria, is to look at how do we make it easier for Nigerians to visit South Africa for holiday and for business events, and identify those barriers that are making it challenging for them to do that, and put mechanisms in place to either remove or address those barriers.
Tourists, talking about Nigerians coming to visit, this pandemic has brought about behavioral change. Now we all have to, wear masks. We all have to wash our hands regularly, use hand sanitizers, and social distance. What do you think tourist behavior would be, going forward?
One of the things we've seen, as a matter of fact, particularly from the data that's coming up, World Health Organization, is obviously issues of health become quite critical and important for when people are traveling. So when we're looking at issues of biosecurity protocols, those become a critical factor in determining where people are going to travel. And which is why globally, all destinations have put in place protocols to address that particular fear for travelers. So, and as South Africa, we are no different from the rest of the destinations. The matter of fact, we have quite a robust and very proactive tourism industry in South Africa that has proactively put together protocols across the whole value chain of the visitor. So right as you landed, the moment you get into that flight, when you land at OR Tambo or in Cape Town, right through to you getting into the rented car, to you get into the hotel, to the tourist attractions, there's protocols in place that address health protocols for the travelers. And we believe those are some of the things that travelers will be looking to make sure that they're in place when they go to destinations. They have proactively made sure that they make it their business to create an assuring environment for the travelers as they come into South Africa. So indeed, yes, I'm encouraging Nigerians post-COVID-19, please come visit South Africa. It still has the diversity of experiences that you enjoyed or those that you've always wanted to experience.
Do you think this segment of the market will contribute largely to your bottom line if you've realized that, okay, young people are showing more interest, are keen about, going on tour, travel? Do you think this segment of the market will be enough to contribute to your bottom line, considering all that's happened, the losses and what have you?
I think the COVID-19 period, one of the things that we cannot take for granted is its impact on the entire tourism value chain globally. Hotels shut down, airlines shut down, travel agencies had to let go of people. That is the reality we dealt with as an industry. So the new norm, as we know it, as we call it now, there are views, certainly the research is indicating to younger travelers are the ones that will have a propensity to travel, possibly earlier, but they are not the only ones that will be traveling. If we are looking at the stages of travel, and I think this goes with the level of risk that we are willing to accept, and the younger people, I think we are much more adventurous and much more willing to try out things versus obviously our parents and the elderly. So I think in responding to your answer, we are looking at a combination of people. So yes, probably if we were to call them the ones that will be first off the starting block, possibly will be the millennials, largely based on the point that I raised earlier. However, we do also have the comfort that we'll also start seeing the return of the traditional travelers, which your couples and your families, particularly as we start making our way into what we call in our market, as an example, your July to September, the summer periods of 2021. We'll start seeing an increase of those travelers.
As for businesses that you work with, how are they going to adjust to this, to this change, or are they already, re-strategizing and trying to create new outdoor experiences? So for partners you work with, what are you seeing?
One of the interesting things about ongoing research is you start to see the evolution of the traveler. So certainly it might be the view now that people will have a preference for outdoor versus indoor activities, largely because you don't want indoors where there's a big grouping of people because of the risk of contamination. Obviously outdoor, it's much more spacious and open and less of a risk versus indoors. One of the things we've adopted in South African tourism is that of understanding the evolution of the traveler. And that is why you would have seen that particular research. So we follow the consumer and its traits and behaviors and what they want to do. And we take that knowledge, or rather insight, to formulate our own businesses so that we are in tune with what the traveler is looking for. Now, what that means for us and our partners is we share that information. So as we are doing our ongoing engagements with the various associations and partners in Nigeria as well as in Ghana, that's the kind of information we share with them so that it enables them to promote and package us accordingly once COVID-19 has happened. It wouldn't make sense for you to exclusively sell an indoor package when that's not what people are looking for. However, those that are selling South Africa have the benefit as well of having this plethora of experiences. I mean, we're a country of 9 provinces with multiple experiences. For example, with wildlife alone, you can only imagine the game reserves that one can go on. Obviously, those are outdoors. We've got scenic beauty as one of the unique traits of South Africa. We've got adventure activities, whether it's you going off the bungee jumping, or you in the Soweto Towers, or you want to go to the biggest bungee bridge in the Garden Route in the Western Cape. So we've got a diversity of experiences, and every time we engage with our partners, we make these experiences available.
You said it earlier that Nigerians love to travel, but even beyond South Africa, Nigerians love to go as far as the US, the UK, as far as China. But do you think this pandemic is going to be a blessing for the continent? Now Africans can explore more of the continent. So do you think so?
First thing I would want to say categorically is we encourage Nigerians to visit South Africa in numbers. Come and have your holiday in South Africa. Once everything is settled down, we are looking forward to welcoming Nigerians to come explore the length and breadth of South Africa. Bring your family, bring your friends, and come have a beautiful, awesome, diversified holiday in South Africa. And indeed, yes, what the pandemic has done for us, like I mentioned, it has given us an opportunity to reflect and look at those opportunities that have been at our doorstep and possibly we did not have time to explore to make it easier for Africans to travel within Africa. And it is because of that we are saying post-COVID-19, you'll also start seeing a lot of our promotions as we make our way through the pandemic, encouraging Nigerians to look at us as a destination for their leisure and business tourism.
As a government agency, are you working with your partner agency in charge of, say, visa, for example, to ensure that for Nigerians who genuinely want to, go on tour South Africa, things are easy for them, they can easily get their visas? Are you, in talks with your sister agency in South Africa to make things easy, for Nigerians to be able to get their visas easily without any stress? The
minister made a commitment to our markets that, the issue of visas was one that was receiving a high level attention, which indeed it is. And obviously, our Department of Home Affairs was also working on an online the e-visa, and we were still to get a confirmation as to when the e-visa system was going to go live, which obviously will make the process much more easier and seamless because it will now be an online-based system. However, the point I was emphasizing around the importance of making it easier for Nigerians to apply for a visa, obviously submitting all the accurate and right documentation, is the fact that extra resources had been made available to both in Abuja and Lagos. So when the pandemic happened in March, there were 4 extra resources in Lagos and 2 extra resources in Abuja. What that means is if a visa process naturally would have taken 2 to 3 weeks to turn around. We had brought it down to as far as 5 days to get a visa to South Africa, because obviously the more hands on deck we have, the quicker the processing of the applications and the issuance, as well as, or rather you getting your feedback on the outcome of your application. So obviously then that happened and the pandemic has happened. Now, what will happen post COVID-19? I'm not yet in a position to comment on that. I'm not too sure what that will be. However, we can only take comfort in what was happening before the pandemic, and if anything, the high-level prioritization of that process, as well as the addition of extra resources to manage that process, for us bodes well for the, obviously to show that we want to make it easier and quicker. And I think most important, it's the quickness, because that's what a lot of our partners were complaining about, that it was taking too long for the visas process to be finalized, whether it's an issuance or obviously a decline, whichever outcome it is.
Are there plans to launch a campaign, sensitizing Nigerians, giving confidence, that gives confidence to Nigerians that, you can come to South Africa now, South Africa is open, you don't need to worry about your safety, your health. Are there plans to launch any campaign soon, once the lockdown is lifted, especially in South Africa?
Obviously, now that everything comes back to normal, or whatever the new normal is, we will then come out with specific plans that will then indicate how we are going to promote ourselves as a leisure and business destination. So certainly that would be the outcome of that.
I think that will be all. Any other thing you want to add?
So for us as South African tourism, the traveler is of utmost importance, and it is for that reason that during this lockdown period, we are taking time to reflect, to reignite, engage with our partners, identify any challenges or barriers in our business to make sure that post this pandemic, we are providing a compelling value proposition to Nigerians to patronize us as a business and leisure destination. And we look forward to welcoming them.